What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the PlayStation Forecast episode 71. I am back after four long weeks away, like 3 3/4, 3 2/3, 3 7/8. I don't know, however you want to scale that fraction of yours. I'm back. It's me. It's Alex Derrickson, your host of TPSF, the PlayStation Forecast, a video game podcast, I'm just kidding. Hope you guys have had a good month, right? Like, typically it's like, hope you had a good last 7 days. This has been almost 30. It's been like 27 days, I think, since the last time I've done a show. Still did the streams here and there, right? But, took some time off, got refreshed, got my bearings back about me, about this show, what I want to do with it, and I'd like, let's address it, right? Let's talk about it before we get into the games I played during the sabbatical. In terms of changes, I had said I wanted to kind of figure it out. And I don't. The problem really is I'm not so much a if it isn't broke, don't fix it guy. I'm more of a if it's not broken, break it until it is, and then try to fix it. And I wanted to try and figure out which path of that road I needed to take, right? So thought long and hard about it, and I realized that the format is fine. It's not necessarily a format problem. The problem was definitely on my end, right? You do anything enough, a couple hours a week, you get your pre-work, your show, your post-work, things like that you got to do. On top of being a parent, on top of the full-time job, stuff like that. 70 weeks in a row is a long-ass time to do anything. And I just needed that time off. So I didn't want to put myself in a position where I was going to, walk away from the show, right? Or like put myself in a position where I was burnt out and then coming up to a week like last week where I probably would have had to have done 2 episodes in 1 week and then time one for later and kind of come up with like this evergreen topic to talk about. And it makes things way more difficult than they need to be, especially when I was kind of in the headspace I was in. So really wanted to focus more, I think, going forward. We're going to tweak some stuff here and there, make some adjustments here and there, right? Like kind of week in, week out, kind of play this by ear. But it gave me time to kind of go back and re-examine what is the PlayStation Forecast, right? What is this show? What is its goals? What the mission statement? I hate that word. I hate those words together, right? Mission statement, because it's not really my style, but I get it. You kind of need one sometimes. So as much as I like talking about the news, that's not going away. It might be a bit more truncated. It might be more, still the deep dive. Like, that's not going away. Nothing about the show is going away. I just might have to pivot stuff every now and then, right? I want to focus about the games I've been playing too, because I think that is important to talk about the stuff I'm playing in the interim, the games I'm checking out, the stuff that you may not think to try out that I'm like, oh hey, like I played this and you may not have heard of it, but like I want to make sure everything kind of gets its fair game. And one of the reasons why I started doing this show was so I could talk about games, not just the news, right? I want to talk about the stuff I'm playing, the stuff I like, the stuff I'm enjoying at the moment, and that's kind of like one hand washes the other with the Wednesday streams too. So like they all kind of lean into each other and help each other. So I'm going to get more into that. I want to focus on the stuff I've been playing a lot. Still going to do the news. Whether it's a top 5 or top 8, top 10, some of it was just the fact that, like I said a month ago, it was just slow since E3, and stuff's kind of picked up since Gamescom, and we'll get into that and get into the things that have occurred since I've left. But I gotta have that buffer, right? Like I can't just sit there every Monday and be like, well, on Wednesday I played this and expect that to carry it on a slow news week. So I want to get back more into playing games, into talking more about the stuff I'm liking and disliking about whatever it is I'm playing, and really focus on that too, because I think that part of the show is just as important as the news itself. So there's going to be a lot more of that, I think, going forward. Really honing in on stuff outside of just the Wednesday streams, right? I can't just coast, and that's kind of what I felt like I was doing for a minute. And E3 took a lot out of me, I think, more than I thought. But I really just want to get in there and get into the granular stuff about the game, still do the news, still do the context, still do your trophies, still do the new releases and things like that. Like none of that's going away. I just needed to go away for like a month to just figure out, take some time and work on me. So, welcome back. I hope I didn't scare any of you away. I wanted to give this time to kind of, reset some algorithms too and things like that. This is all very new to me. This is all very different and very strange, and doing something like this by myself, kind of like by the seat of my pants, it's difficult when, like, I'm sure I've said this before, when something lives and dies by what you put into it, right? And you only get out what you put into it. And so I wanted to take that time to really assess the show, the current state of it and things like that. And is this going to be something I do every 70 weeks? I don't know. Who knows? But I got to make sure I take the time for myself, because as much as I think y'all listen to this show for its format and its structure and things like that, I understand I play a role in that. I play as the sort of messenger, as the deliverer of the news and things like that. You're all here for some aspect of it being me and what I put into it, and I just felt like I was shortchanging you guys. And to walk that back, to assess that, to admit that, scale back and get back into it, feels good. It feels really good. So I got old Quarter Galley here. I hope you guys stick around if you're watching live, because we're gonna be playing some Wreckfest after this. But I want to get in. I want to talk about Wreckfest. I want to talk about the other stuff I've been playing. So let's do that. I even put this out in a nice list. I'm excited. So the first thing I want to talk about actually is Doom. So I put Doom at the top because I don't have a lot to say more about Doom. Still awesome. I think it's probably a really great example of what first-person shooters can be in this generation. But played more of it, still really liking it, but some other stuff's just kind of taking precedence over it right now. And really, if you recall, I wanted to I was going to get into The Witcher. That was another thing, is I wanted a Witcher Wednesdays on twitch.tv/PressXAlex. It had a great ring to it. Sounded like a great idea. That's not a streaming game for me. The game itself doesn't match my emotions, my feelings. I like being up here, and The Witcher's like here. And so when I'm here, this is a great game. Witcher's awesome, but like, it's such a slow moving game, right? It's like kind of like pedaling through hummus. It's a butter churner. It's that thing where it's a lot, and it's overwhelming, and I like it. I think it's gorgeous, even playing on a little launchy here. Like, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to like about The Witcher. There's a lot to love about The Witcher 3. But just for me, on playing it in the short, truncated amount of times and bursts that I had, a little harder to get into for me. I'll get into it, I think, later. Whether that's later as in it's backwards compatible on PS5 later, I don't know. But will the Netflix series draw me in? Who knows? That's what drew me in the first place. So we'll see. The other stuff I started getting into, I'm going to take the deeper dives into, starting with the Disney Afternoon collection. So this was like $5. Why wouldn't I pick that? Like, if you follow me on Twitter, I fucking love DuckTales. I love DuckTales Remastered. I love, the NES games and things like that. Now, so one second. Love that water. So with the Disney Afternoon collection, it's DuckTales, DuckTales 2, Darkwing Duck, Tailspin, Chip 'n Dale, Rescue Rangers, and Chip 'n Dale 2, I believe. Now, the ones I've played so far is I've played DuckTales. I've played a lot of Tailspin, played a good chunk of Darkwing Duck, played a little bit of Chip 'n Dale. And I don't know. It's really funny to play these late 80s, early 90s Capcom games, because, like, you look at something where, like, Darkwing Duck is kind of this reskinned Mega Man, right? And DuckTales is DuckTales and whatever. But, like, I would love to go back in time and be a fly on the wall for those meetings at Capcom, where they're just like, well, we got that Disney license, how should we make these games? And someone's probably at the table just like, do we make them hard as fuck? And they're like, hard as fuck? Yeah, let's make them hard as fuck. Because, like, those, like, if you've got to make a remaster series that's got a rewind function, like, good lord, you've made a game very difficult. And, like, Darkwing Duck is very difficult. Tailspin at times is holy shit. And, DuckTales, like I said, I've gone through DuckTales many times over, and that game that's not a slouch. Like, that game is not, an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. And it just cracks me up that you see that era, right? Like that sort of figuring out, tooling out what is the home console market away from the arcades. And you've got, I think it was on an Up Up Down Down stream where they were playing Sunset Riders. Samoa Joe made the point that you had, what was it? You had quarter games and you had dollar games. And that's how he and like his friends gauged the difficulty. And like, Jesus Christ, these are dollar games, right? Like you've got to bring dollars for these things. The rewind function makes it really nice, makes it far less untenable. But just having that kind of like quick second to be like, oh nope, died. Well, hold on, bring it back, try it again, bring it back, try it again, bring it back, try it again. But like, I cannot imagine being a kid then and being like, well, this is my one game. And like just being like, oh god, I suck at this, because like I said, Darkwing Duck is really just Mega Man. Like it's a reskinned Mega Man, but like just getting into Tailspin and stuff like that is just absurd at points. It's a great collection, and being able to play it with the different filters and the different screen resolutions and things like that, it's really cool to see. The adjustments are there. It was a great deal for $5. Like don't even front, like it's a fantastic series of games. It's just, good Lord, like playing these games, from 30 years ago in 2019, there's that kind of weird like light bulb in my, like kind of weird voice in my head that's like, this game's old, so it's going to be easy. And it's like, no, could not be further from the truth on those old-timey Capcom games. The other one I want to talk about, I've got three more to talk about. I got Wargroove. So Wargroove is from Chucklefish. Chucklefish is the developer and publisher of Wargroove, but they were also the publisher of Stardew Valley. So Wargroove is this turn-based grid-style RPG, tactics game. More tactics. It's kind of Civ Revi in a way. Gorgeous pixel art style. So far, kind of a cool story. You're playing as this princess, and the king's been killed, so you kind of take over as the queen, and you're leading this army against these ne'er-do-wells. I play these games. I streamed it a couple weeks ago, and I play those games really conservatively because I do kind of like I don't like to lose. I don't like to invest a ton of time into losing. And that's kind of one of the things that keeps me away from something like XCOM, or something like, if I had to switch, something like Fire Emblem. But Wargroove really scratches that itch for me that Civ Rev does, that, XCOM would, and things like that. It's that sort of like tactics-based, like deep kind of thought thing. And I understand at some point in the game there's this much sharper difficulty spike. We're going to get this out of the way. They've kind of got to prepare for, and I haven't gotten back into it because I had some other stuff I want to play, but it's really good. It's been out on Switch for a while. It's been on PC for a while. It's been on Xbox One for a while. It just made its way to PS4 within the last month, and like everything about it feels so far fair. Like figuring out how to do critical hits, figuring out different paths, different movements. It's still that kind of like chessboard orientation, where you have different parts of your army can move different lengths of the map and things like that. It's if you played Fractured But Whole, you understand grid-based combat at a very rudimentary level. Wargroove is a lot of fun. I love the music. I really like the writing so far. For a pixel art game, it's so gorgeous, and I don't mean that in a derogative sense, in a pejorative sense, when I say for a pixel art game it's gorgeous. Like, I'm judging this against other pixel art games. I'm judging this against Shovel Knight, against Stardew, against so many other like fucking Axiom Verge, things like that. Like it's up there. It is top tier in that. It's a gorgeous game by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're just factoring in, I can't sit there and be like, well, compared to God of War, like I'm not gonna compare it to Spider-Man. Like there's none of that's there. It's looking at it as a wholly objective, like, yes, it is a very pretty game, but if you're narrowing it down to just pixel art games, like this is a S tier looking game. It's so good looking. Like I said, the combat's fluid, the turns are nice. There's not like any sort of amount of like loading time between having to do stuff. If you played like Civ Rev 2 on the Vita, there's a ton of frame rate issues. There's a lot of loads between turns and things like that. Wargroove doesn't have any of that. It's a very, very, very good tile-based tactics game. And if you're into those, or if you're someone like me who doesn't have a Switch and you're like, oh, like a Fire Emblem's kind of like drummed up that flame in you, right? You know, you have Wargroove as at least a healthy alternative. Whether it's of the same ilk, of the same quality, I don't know. I haven't played it. I doubt it, just because Fire Emblem's already, you know, chasing Game of the Year stuff. But Wargroove is really good. I really dig it. I kind of want to get back in there. Now, if you've followed me for any stretch of time, you've heard me talk about Church in the Darkness. And Church in the Darkness is this top-down, old-style Metal Gear stealth infiltrator game where it's a cult infiltrator, I think is the genre it coined itself as. In the defense of Church in the Darkness, there's been a patch that has come out that fixes some stuff. All of the audio was running on one track. So your narration, your sound effects, your in-game audio, the loudspeaker audio, all that stuff was all running through one slider. And that created a pretty off-balanced audio like mix because like certain things played much louder than like other aspects of the game did. But you couldn't independently adjust them. So like you're like, wow, the PA address is really, really loud. You turn that volume down, you're turning down everything else. And like I said, it creates a really unbalanced, almost unfair audio mix. What makes Church in the Darkness so cool though is and the patch broke out the sliders independently, so you can be like, okay, I want the PA down, game up, whatever. But what makes it cool is the game is procedurally generated. So you land on this island, you're at a different part of the island every time. The people in the camp can have different personalities. The position of the guards are different. The actual cult leaders themselves have different personalities. And if you die and the game resets, it even asks like, hey, do you want different personalities? Do you want the same as you just played? And then I think there's 19 or 20 endings. I want to say it's 19, but I don't remember. It might be 20. 20 sounds right. So different outcomes, different things you can do. But you're infiltrating this cult to try and find your nephew, who's also named Alex. So you're getting through there, and you've got to like meet these different people, and you've got a map. And as you meet different people in the camp, they're like, hey, like I don't know, but I think he's here. But you can talk to this person, which is on the other end of the map. But it's a small map. It's very navigatable. It's not like a Fallout kind of thing. And then once you go down there, like that kind of circle of where your nephew is gets smaller, but it's still like you could probably go. I'll put it this way: I went straight into the circle after they're like, "Yeah, I think he's around right here." I went down to get that narrowed out, and the woman wouldn't help me because I'd killed too many people. She's like, "No, you've killed my people. I'm not helping you." So I was like, "Fuck it." So I went back up to the top where it said the nephew was. I found it just kind of by process of elimination, working that circle out. So like it's not something where you have to go knock out like boom, 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 like these series of events to find them out. It just makes it a little easier if you do. But I ran into a wall where someone wouldn't help me, so I kind of had to take matters into my own hands. It's fun. Like it's a fun like game to play in quick bursts. It's not. I don't ever see myself going and being like, I'm gonna play Church in the Darkness for the next 4 hours, right? Like, it doesn't have those kinds of hooks. It's definitely a in between games game, or like, oh, I've got an hour before I've got to do something, or like it's a good game to do like in between stuff, where like it's if you're in college, it's a really good between classes game if you have a long break, right? Like I wouldn't give it 3 hours, but if it's like hey, like I've got 90 minutes before I've got to be somewhere, or hey, if you're someone that gets ready really fast for an event and you're like, oh, I've got 30 minutes before I need to leave, Church of the Darkness is a great drop in, drop out kind of game. Not drop in, drop out in the co-op sense, but drop in, drop out as in like you boot it up, you play around, round or two, you bounce, and you can kind of come back, and it serves its purpose really well in that regard. It's fun. I like the characters in it. I like the environment. I think it's very fairly balanced in terms of like playing it on like an okay difficulty. The amount of like armed guards versus like people in the cult that will just pull alarms on you and things like that. I think it's really well distributed. It's really well balanced. If you start getting kind of more into the meaty areas, it's more armed people, so you do have to be a little sneakier. The cones of vision, I think, are fair. A lot of it is like a really, really well balanced game. The issue is just, I think, outwardly seeking the endings. It's, figuring out what those different combinations are, those different conversations, and the different like temperaments of the leaders and the people in the cult. And even your nephew can generate a different kind of like disposition, right? Where he may be like, no, I like it here, I want to stay. Or he might be like, yo, like this is fucked up, get me out of here. So doing that, it's a fair game. It's a good procedurally generated tactics game. And not tactics, stealth ops game, right? Like espionage game. From like it's a top-down perspective, it's pretty open, it feels good. The button layout makes sense. Like there's not a whole lot to say about it. My biggest critique was really in the audio mix. There's another patch that actually has a certain song play, not as much, which is kind of a bummer because I didn't think it happened that frequently, but enough people complained, and I think a lot of it was just because it was over the public address system, which then made it much louder. But I didn't mind that. I thought the weapons were distributed well. I liked the fact that, you can, if you like kill somebody or you just kind of render them unconscious, you can lock them in a cage, you can hide the body in a crate, stuff like that. There's areas to explore to help get health stuff, to help find weapons and ammo and things like that. Like it does a really good job of keeping it balanced, where it is a sort of like, hey, like, okay, so you've got like a shotgun, but this is, limited ammo and you're in a higher, like, denser populated area. So you've kind of got to play that out. Like, okay, is stealth the best option? Is working my way around it? Is disabling the alarm box is going to be the best route? Like, there's a certain level of, like, not intuition, but, like, kind of, I guess, like, planning you need to have going into it, where it is like I said, like, okay, you get to it, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna knock this person out, I'm gonna take out this alarm box, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna hide this body, and hide in these buildings and things like that. I thought some of the stuff was a little wonky. One of the cones of vision, I saw this a couple times over when I streamed it. A cone of vision would go like through a building, which is fine, whatever, but it would still alert them like, oh, there's a person in here, and it's like, what? No, like, there are walls here, sir, and I'm not like near a window. Like the cone just kind of goes through the wall and it picks you up, and all of a sudden, they're checking the doorway to look for it. And it's like, that's not really how vision works, but you can work around it. It's really just a matter of like, okay, like shoot that person or like come around the other side of the building and choke them out, like whatever you got to do. But it's one of those things where I ran into a few instances where I was like, that shouldn't have happened. Like, and through no fault of my own, that shouldn't have happened. But it's good. It's a game that it's exactly what I thought it would be. Like it's not gonna wow you. I don't think it's gonna be in a running for Game of the Year or anything like that, obviously. But like if you're looking for like a quick, short burst tactical espionage game, like check out Church in the Darkness. Like they're constantly working on it with patches and things like that too. I need to scoot the chair in because I want to lean back. If you're watching the video version, just gotta lean back sometimes. But it's not gonna sit there and like revolutionize the way you look at a game or revolutionize the tactics genre or the espionage genre. It's more or less like, cool, like, yeah, it's a top-down procedurally generated cult infiltrator. If you like I'm talking like OG like NES Metal Gear games, right? Like if you like those, like Church in the Darkness is exactly that, and just without like the Kojima flair and flourish. The procedural generation I think is really cool. I think that's a really great twist on it because it keeps the game fresh, because a playthrough of like boat landing to finding your nephew is maybe an hour, but it's that thing where like it's not just an hour to like beat it. You're just like, oh cool, all right, great, did it, delete it from the hard drive. It's like, okay, cool, let me try this again, different personalities, see what this loads, see what this does. So that's I think the really cool twist on Church in the Darkness is the fact that it's got a lot of replayability because every time's a little bit different, like where you start on the island, how the temperaments and things like that. The last thing, and before I get to Wreckfest, I think it's important to say, because I've fell out a habit of doing this, right? Wargroove, Church in the Darkness, and Wreckfest. Codes all provided by PR teams or publishers and things like that. So that is important for me to disclose. But so Wreckfest is from Bugbear. It's published by THQ Nordic. Let's get that out of the way. I know it's cool to hate THQ Nordic because they did that fucking weird ass AMA on 8chan, and shout out to Mark and all that shit. But to be fair, I'm not gonna fault the developer for the decisions of the publisher. Like, apples and oranges, right? Like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, it's not Bugbear's fault that THQ Nordic did that AMA. So I'm not going to sit there and be like, you about it. But if saying Bugbear struck a thing in you where you're like, I've heard that before. Where have I heard that before? So Bugbear was the developer of Flat Out. Now, again, that Flat Out may again strike a chord with you. So what Wreckfest is it is a demolition derby / racing game, and it's fan fucking tastic. Like, it's so I've been playing the shit out of Wreckfest. Like, we went to Chicago this past week. Like, my wife and the boyo and I had a great time in Chicago. Love that city. It's my fourth time visiting. Love that place. But the kid goes to bed real early, so we brought the PlayStation, for the Netflixes and the Hulus and things like that. But, had some games. Might as well bring them with me. And outside of Wreckfest, I do not feel like I played a lot in this last week. It's got its hooks in me in the same way, and I know some of you are probably going to like cringe when I say this, but in the same way like Super Mega Baseball had its hooks in me, the same way Rocket League had its hooks in me. It's that great game between games, but it goes far beyond that into the reaches of the fact that it's like there's some meat on this game, like outside of like, just, oh, I'm going to do a demolition derby, or oh, I'm going to do a race and try and rack up some damage, whatever. There's actual cars to buy. There's car upgrades to make. There's tuning to do. There's a ton of different modes. So you've got standard, I think it's just called banger races, where it's just a 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 lap race, whatever. But you still have a lot of damage that can be done to your car, to other cars. You develop rivalries and things like that. You've got just straight up oval tracks. You've got figure 8 tracks. You've got the actual just straight last man standing demolition derby, which is car battle royale, but with like 24 cars. I have not taken the game online yet. There is a multiplayer component. I have not tried it yet, so I cannot speak to that. I can only speak to single player. I'm doing the career mode right now. It's a ton of fun. There's a big mix of stuff you can do in there in terms of like banger races and race series and demolition derbies. But the one thing, the two words that sold me on Wreckfest: lawnmower deathmatch. It's awesome. It's so great. You're literally on a riding mower, and you're just trying to crash other people on the riding mowers, and you can actually run over the bodies. Does it clip them up? No, it doesn't do anything. Can you actually cut the grass with the mower? You can't. Did I try? It's the first thing I did. Y'all kidding me? Think I wouldn't try that? It is, honest to goodness, fantastic. I think it's one of I think the steering feels good, the actual acceleration, the brakes, the car damage, all that stuff feels super good, super fluid. I am loving it. I have not gotten much into the tuning. I'm slowly working through like car upgrades and like expanding like my garage and things like that. But good Lord, like that game came out of nowhere on me, where I was like, oh, cool, like that looks cool. And I was like, oh, it's a demolition derby game. Okay, like I'm in. And if you're watching the show live on twitch.tv/PressXAlex, hang back after we're done with the show, because I'm going to be streaming Wreckfest after that. And if you missed the stream, youtube.com/PressXAlex a couple days later, and it'll be a VOD on Twitch as well. But it's so good. It's I was describing it to my wife a certain way, and the other mode is there's couch races too, like honest fucking sofa races. You're racing couches with exhausts. It to me is like if somebody just snorted a bunch of coke. No, this is how okay, finally, that actually triggered how I remembered it. It's, to me, like if a bunch of animals snorted a bunch of coke and then tried to make a game based off what they think a county fair is. And that is Wreckfest. It's absurd. It's outlandish, but like, holy shit, is that game fun in a way that like I don't find fun in other games, in a way where I'm playing it and I'm like, oh shit, like yeah, like this is awesome. There's a great replayability to it. Like if I come in second or a third in a race, I kind of like, okay, let's restart it, let's try to go for first. Like everything handles differently, each car handles differently, the lawnmowers handle far different from the cars, thank god. The sofas handle differently from the lawnmowers from the car, thank god. Like it's, everything requires like a certain amount of adjustment, a certain amount of learning, and right now I'm still playing on easy because it's a racer and I'm not good at them. But it's been kind of also figuring out like, okay, how does this car turn compared to like what I'm used to? Like how does this track work? You know, how do I work this? And then there's like these different sub goals where it's like, hey, like do 1,500 points of damage and finish first. And I ain't about that life. I'm gonna finish first. I'm not gonna risk my health to rack up some more points to fuck somebody else. No, sir. No. But Wreckfest is where it is at. Like, if you played Flat Out, if you loved Flat Out, you've got to give Wreckfest a shot. If you like the Burnout games, this is like Hillbilly Burnout. There's so much to love within Wreckfest. And I'm so excited to actually, like, play it tonight and to show y'all, and then to also, like, play more of it throughout the rest of the year. Because right now, like, Wreckfest is the most fun I've had playing. And lastly, I think I said Wreckfest was lastly, but I skipped one. I played more Anthem. Now, if you watched the Anthem stream, you're well aware of where I'm going with this. If you follow me on Twitter, you're well aware of where I'm going with this. But I've spent more time in Anthem. Now, the first time I played Anthem, I griped and I bitched and I complained a lot about it. Also, I was not very sober when I was playing Anthem, so I think that probably didn't help. So stone sober, jumped into Anthem. Really was a quick reminder of all the stuff I didn't like about it. Like the UI looks like ass. I don't like the objective markers, things like that, right? Here's the thing, though. Anthem is beyond fascinating to me because I don't really care about the lore. I think the UI is, like I said, I think it's very unattractive. I think it has a lot going against it. I don't think the world is that interesting, all that stuff. Excuse me. But the gunplay is awesome and the flying is awesome. And what ended up happening on this last Anthem stream was I kind of just like zoned out. I just focused on the flying. I focused on the shooting. I focused on the combat. I changed my weapons. I upgraded the suit a little bit, made these minor adjustments here and there. But what ended up happening was very strange, and it hasn't happened to me in a very long time, where I've played a game that has this much meat to kind of like chew on, where I zoned out. I just kind of like almost like blacked out in a weird state and only thought about the gunplay, only thought about the flying, and everything else about that game fell into place. Like everything about it to me fell into place. It made sense. It clicked. It clicked in a way I did not anticipate. And it clicked in a way I didn't expect. Where I was like, oh, shit. You see the skeleton of the game, right? And you're like, this game's got really good bones. It's aesthetically not great. It's technically not great. But like, there's a good game kind of like tucked inside of there in a weird way, where if you only focus on the two things that the game does exceptionally well, which is, the flying and the shooting, everything else kind of makes sense. And like I said, the lore and the world, not inherently interesting. Like there's not tons of games. I shouldn't say that. Games exist that do Anthem better than Anthem does. But few of them for me clicked and registered with me once I kind of just like looked through the bad in a way, where I was just like, okay, like, yeah, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, but these two things are great, and this is kind of the core of the game, so let me just kind of like work on these two things, and everything else just kind of fell. And now I kind of like Anthem like way more than I thought I ever would. Like just in the 4-ish hours I've spent in it, and I'm like, wow, that was totally worth the $10. Like, if I paid 60 for it, would I have been pissed? Probably. Sure. But like at $10, I'm at the point now where I would have been like, yeah, this is a $15-$20 game for me. Like 15 is still definitely a yes. 20 is kind of a questionable. But like, yeah, I'm getting my money's worth out of Anthem. I'm really enjoying it. Like, I'm very surprised. I'm very excited to get back in it. Probably Saturday night we'll stream some more Anthem, but I kind of want to get back into it more than that. Would have loved to have done it on vacation, but the hotel Wi-Fi was a little murky, so didn't really want to like chance a game that requires that much online play on a thing that was like 7 megabits up. So it was 7 down and like I think like 7 down 6 up or something like that. That was the premium internet. But yeah, if you've backed out of Anthem at any point, like because you paid $60 for it, you know, like I'm sorry. It's not a $60 game, but it is a great $10 game, and it's a very, very good $15 game. So if you find it for that cheap, and I think it's typically hovering around like $10-15 now, it's worth getting in there. It's worth trying. It's worth kind of working through some of the bullshit at first to get to where you can add the weapons and things like that and upgrade your stuff. But I'm having fun with it, and I'm pleasantly surprised, and I'm really excited to get back in there with it. Other than that, we're caught up on the games I've been playing. Other than that, I watched like 4 hours of DuckTales. We came home from Chicago last night, late yesterday afternoon. I watched like 4 hours of DuckTales, ate a whole pizza. It was a great day. It was a great evening. Best way to spend the night. The second best way I could have spent the night. First best way is doing this with you. And if you're wondering what this is the PlayStation Forecast, and it does come to you live each and every Monday at twitch.tv/pressx2alex. But if you missed the live stream, don't worry about it, because it comes up to you every Tuesday on twitch.tv, or well, it's already on Twitch as a VOD. It's on youtube.com/pressx2alex and podcast services around the globe, including Spotify, not including SoundCloud. If you want to help support the show, the best thing you can do is subscribe to it on the podcast service of your choice. Follow me on twitch.tv/pressx2alex. Subscribe on YouTube, all that stuff. Write a glowing 5-star review on iTunes. All those things help the show get found, helps in Apple's algorithms and the other Castbox, Castros, Pocket Casts, whatever podcast service you use. I'm here. So thank you for listening. Now, if you want to go beyond that, what can you do? You can go to patreon.com/pressx2alex, where there's just one tier to rule them all. And that one tier is for $1 a month. FAQ, can you support more than $1 a month? You can. Am I going to stop you? Absolutely not. Am I going to ask for more than $1? Never. I'm just going to let you know the option is there to do it if you so choose. But for $1 a month, $12 a year, you can support my crazy endeavors and help me upgrade the certain things. Like we were able to upgrade the laptop. We were able to get mics and things like that here. You know, right? I want to upgrade these lights, because these lights are, no offense, these lights are kind of trash. You know, you get cheap light kit, you get what you pay for. But like, hey, patreon.com/pressx2alex. You help support the show there, help support the streams there. And if you ever want to know what I'm doing outside of this podcast, you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/pressx2alex, or just get back to me on Twitch on Wednesday nights where I stream games. What do I stream? Probably going to be a lot of Anthem going forward, but tonight we're doing Wreckfest. Wednesday is Man of Medan right now. It kind of depends if I get to Erica or not. Saturday's probably going to be more Anthem, but Mondays and Wednesdays you can find me here on Twitch. Whew. The rigmarole's a little rusty, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a minute since I had to do all that. I didn't even try it once in my head. Typically, sometimes if I take like a week off, if I double up on shows and I go like a Monday without one, I kind of run through the rigmarole in my head a little bit just to kind of keep it fresh. I haven't done it in a month, and it shows. But without further ado, let's get into the news. Now, this is a big one. This happened during Gamescom. I almost broke the sabbatical to talk about this, but I'm not. I saved it for this because I didn't know what else was going to be happening in the coming weeks. But Sony has acquired Insomniac Games. This is from Samit Sarkar over at Polygon. Sony is buying Insomniac Games, the Japanese company announced Monday, making Insomniac the 14th internal studio under the Sony Interactive Entertainment banner. The companies did not disclose financial terms of the acquisition, which has not yet closed. Quote, Insomniac Games is one of the most highly acclaimed development studios in the industry, and their legacy of best-in-class storytelling and gameplay is unparalleled, said Sean Layden, chairman of SIE Worldwide Studios, in a news release. Continuing, we have enjoyed a strong collaborative partnership with the studio for many years and are thrilled to officially welcome them to the Worldwide Studios family. The addition of Insomniac Games to SIE WWS reiterates our commitment to developing world-class gaming experiences that can only be found on the PlayStation platform. End quote. Ted Price, Insomniac's founder and CEO, said, quote, joining the Worldwide Studios family gives Insomniac even greater opportunities to achieve our studio vision of making positive and lasting impressions on people's lives. Continuing, we've enjoyed a special relationship with PlayStation practically since our inception. Our partnership amplifies our potential, and Marvel's Spider-Man was a testament to this. We're excited to take the next step in our growth alongside our longtime Worldwide Studios partners. Most of all, we look forward to delivering fresh new experiences for our fans. End quote. Let's see. Once the acquisition closes, Insomniac's current management team will continue to run the studio in conjunction with Sony's internal studios in San Mateo, California. Insomniac's headquarters is located in Burbank, California, and the company has another branch in Durham, North Carolina that opened in 2009. This is the first new PlayStation internal developer in a long time. Sony announced ForwardWorks, a studio working on smartphone games, in March 2016. The company's last major studio acquisition came at the start of the decade with Dreams developer Media Molecule in 2010 and Ghost of Tsushima maker Sucker Punch Productions in 2011. In the meantime, Microsoft has been beefing up its development portfolio by buying up studios left and right, with 7 acquisitions since E3 2018, those being Compulsion Games, Ninja Theory, Playground Games, Undead Labs, In Exile Entertainment, Obsidian Entertainment, and Double Fine Productions. So, I got asked about my stance on this during one of the streams during the off time. And so I'll just kind of reiterate what I said there. Awesome. Congratulations to Insomniac. That's incredible. I know some people are, are probably mad, like whatever you classify as a fanboy, however the fuck you do it, whatever. Some people are probably like, oh, Sony getting by another studio. But here's the thing. This is, yes, it's great for Sony. I just dripped water all over myself. But this is great for Sony. But it's greater for Insomniac Games. Because what this is going to do is, if you look at Insomniac's kind of like pedigree, let's pull up. We know Insomniac for Ratchet and Clank. We know them for Spider-Man. We know them for Sunset Overdrive. But there's also other games in here, and this is what I think gets lost in the shuffle when we talk about like what a AA game, what a second party game is, right? What a second party studio is. Because if you go down to the games developed, yes, it's Spyro, yes, it's Ratchet, yes, it's the Resistance series, but there's also like Fuse. There is Sunset Overdrive, which commercially did not do as well. There's Song of the Deep, which was published by GameStop's thing that they were doing. There's these games that like weren't inherently commercial bangers. And what ends up happening with a studio like that is you make a game, right? We'll use Vanquish as an example. Vanquish was a solid game. Or Fuse. Why did I say Vanquish? I always have Vanquish on my brain. Fuse. So you look at something like Fuse. Comes out, new IP, Insomniac's behind it, doesn't do well. Just commercially, critically, whatever, what forces against it that there were, the game does not succeed. What ends up happening there for a company like Insomniac is it's like, okay, we spent all that money into Fuse, we didn't get that money back. How do we make the next game? And when you get absorbed into something like Worldwide Studios, now you're playing with that Sony money, where you've got like, Sony coming in and like, hey, look, here's funding for the next game. Not only that, it's going to allow Insomniac to, probably grow their studios, grow their teams, have an A team, a B team, maybe a C team. You got to figure their biggest project right now is Spider-Man 2. Then you probably have a sub team that's like, hey, like, okay, work on Ratchet and Clank. Here's funding to bring up your staffing for that, so you can kind of work on these two things at once. It's a security thing. And I think it's something to kind of like easy to lose sight of when you are a team like Insomniac that is, pumps out, that has stuff like Ratchet in their arsenal, that had Resistance and things like that. But for them now to have that full backing of Sony, that full funding from Sony, it's going to allow them to be a bit more secure and to be financially, stable. It's going to let them focus on their projects and not have to, it lets them breathe a little easier. It lets them exhale. It's not so much like, oh God, like I hope this one works, hope this is good, because otherwise we can't fund the next one, or how, it helps them out a lot more in the long run. And I think that's good. I don't want to say more than I've already said or more than someone else has already said, but this is a great move. This is fantastic for Insomniac. It's great for Sony because clearly, I don't think they're done acquiring stuff, but it's that thing where, yeah, it shows that, hey, we're dedicated to the next gen. Hey, we're dedicated to still growing our studios. Yes, it's been 8 years since we've, added to our stable, but we've added to our stable now, and it's a big add. Like, adding Insomniac is no slouch, especially coming off of the heels of Spider-Man. When you've got Naughty Dog gearing up for Last of Us Part 2, you've got Insomniac coming off of the heels of Spider-Man, you've got Guerrilla working on whatever they're working off the heels of Horizon. Like, that right there are 3 fantastic studios with just a world of IPs at their fingertips that, have a really bright future now, and they've got that secure funding. And Insomniac's now just another part of that. It's fantastic. Congrats to everyone at Insomniac. That's a big deal, and it's really awesome to see. Next news story over here is from Jason Schreier at Kotaku, kind of the next stage in the ongoing GameStop saga, where GameStop lays off over 100 people, including nearly half of Game Informer's staff. The struggling retail chain GameStop laid off over 100 employees, this is at the time of posting today, both at its corporate headquarters in Grapevine, Texas, and other offices, including its subsidiary Game Informer magazine in Minnesota, where nearly half of the editorial staff lost their jobs in a surprise cut. Quote, as part of a previously announced GameStop reboot initiative to transform our business for the future and improve our financial performance, we can confirm a workforce reduction was implemented impacting more than 120 corporate staff positions, representing approximately 14% of our total associate base at our company headquarters as well as some other offices, end quote, a GameStop spokesperson told Kotaku in a statement. Quote, while the changes are difficult, they were necessary to reduce cost and better align the organization with our efforts to optimize the business to meet our future objectives and success factors. We recognize that this is a difficult day for our company and particularly for those associates impacted. We appreciate their dedication and service to GameStop and are committed to supporting them during this time of transition, end quote. The news comes just a few weeks after GameStop laid off dozens of regional managers following a brutal year that saw the company try and then stop trying to sell itself. GameStop stock has plummeted over the past few years as the retailer continues to struggle to stay afloat in a world where digital distribution has grown to dominate gaming. The layoffs blindsided staff at Game Informer. 7 of the popular magazine's editors announced on Twitter this afternoon that they had been laid off, including one who said he was on vacation. Per Game Informer's masthead, the magazine has 19 full-time editorial staff. Quote, I'm trying to get things right with my people, editor-in-chief Andy McNamara wrote on Twitter. I love Game Informer, its people, and its readers more than any corporation could, and I will address all the issues when I can, but for now I need to focus on my Game Informer family. So, not to mince words, this sucks. Like, that sucks. We talk so much about GameStop, its struggles and things like that on this show, especially coming from a former employee who spent far too much time there. But it's unfortunate to see the devastation that their struggle is leaving in its wake. And I think that's something that goes a little unnoticed is maybe not the right word, but it's struggle that, like, what kind of message does it send when your editorial staff of 19 people that oversee a magazine with a monthly circulation of over 6.5 million customers is where you make your cuts? When you say that we can't support this as much as we'd like, where we can't fund this as much as we'd want. When you have almost 7 million subscribers through physical and digital, you've got an install base, you're not an install base, but a circulation base of almost 7 million people get Game Informer delivered to them either by mail or email on a staff of 19 people. And you're telling me that's where the cuts have to come from, that is something you can't support, that is something where the money has to get pulled from and make these other people who work this magazine, who work their asses off, work now twice as hard to support this, to manage something where, like, look, props to GameStop, I fucking guess, for keeping the layoffs away from the stores so far. You're hitting your field managers. That's a blow. You're hitting warehouse employees. That's a blow. You're trying to keep them away from the stores. And I get that because that's where your bread's getting buttered. That's where the money's coming in. That's where the inventory is coming in. You know, that's where your trades come in. That's where, like, so much stuff comes in from the stores. And I got to understand, you got to keep those staffed. And even from someone that worked there 5 years ago, they're barely staffed as it is. Like, honest to God, they're barely staffed as it is. And I think that's kind of that weird drive they have. Like, we're a corporate chain with a mom and pop feel. And it's like, come on. Like, no one's blind to it. No one's blind to the struggle. No one's blind to the fact that how many times have we said this, right? Or have I said this, where the stores are of a certain size that is not huge or even remotely big, below average in square footage. And you're just piling more shit in there. You're piling figures and collectibles and a wall of Funko Pops and statues and all that shit. And it's like, you're going to run out of space. Like, you got to start figuring out where you're going to save the most money. And unfortunately, it's going to come from closing stores. It's going to come from lowering your workforce at that area. And I know that's what no one wants to hear. But, like, if you're an employee at GameStop, you can't play dumb to it. You got to assume it's coming at some point. But for GameStop to stand there and be like, as part of our GameStop Reboot initiative, half of a staff of 19 people that make a product that hits almost 7 million people on a product that we charge $14.99 a year for. Like, nah, we got to cut half of them. Are you kidding me? Like, what? And to blindside them like that, too, sucks. Like, it's just... It's slimy, and it's scummy in a way that I did not anticipate it getting. And I think it's something that kind of gets lost in the shuffle, too, about GameStop owning Game Informer and the like. But still, like, when you see that happen and you see, like, those heads roll, for lack of a better phrase, it sucks. Because, like, Game Informer is a great product. It's a great magazine. It's a great site. There's a lot of, like, people from Game Informer that I follow on Twitter that seem like genuinely great people. And no one likes losing their job. No one benefits from that aside from, like, the toppest. But, like, that one chaps my ass. That one chaps my ass in a way that, like, laying off regional managers doesn't chap my ass. In a way that, like, cutting your warehouse staff doesn't bother me. But, like, to go through something and, like I said, to say something with a 6.5 million circulation monthly is not something we can support on a staff of 19 people is just absurd. Like, that's a cop-out. That's a low blow. And when you're trying to avoid, I guess, like I said, you're trying to avoid cutting retail staff, like, at some point, you've got to start figuring out, okay, like, what's going to be really the best course of action? Because, let's be real, I've said it before, there are 3 stores in one city about 30 minutes away from me, and all 3 of those stores are about 5 minutes from each other. 5-ish. You know, probably 10 with some traffic. But you got one in a mall. It only makes money during the holidays. You got one across the street from the mall, then you got one on the other side of the city, but the city's pretty small. Like, it's just, at one point there were 4. At one point there were 4 in that area. And it's so frustrating to sit there and be like, you really need all 3 of those? Like, I love my friends that work there. Y'all are family, and you know that. You always will be. But, like, come on. At some point, you've got a thing. Maybe we have too many stores. But I think part of the reboot initiative is holding out until next gen. Because I think they're just going to try, and I've said this before, just cut to next E3. And hopefully by the time we have more details about, you know, PS5, Xbox, whatever, and Scarlet and all that stuff, right? That, well, we can manage, and then hopefully next gen will carry them for a couple of years. But like, it's gonna get to a point where you can't just ignore cuts coming from a store. Next news comes back from Polygon. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. It's from Michael McWhirter. Sony's Uncharted movie loses another director. Sony's decade-long struggle to make the Uncharted video game franchise into a feature film has hit another snag. Director Dan Trachtenberg of 10 Cloverfield Lane and Black Mirror has exited the project, the fifth director to join and subsequently leave the film, according to a report from Deadline. While Trachtenberg may have moved on, Deadline says actor Tom Holland is still attached to play a young Nathan Drake in the Uncharted prequel-style film. Sony is said to be meeting with directors to keep the project moving. PlayStation Productions, the movie and television division, of Sony, set to adapt video game properties for other media, is now reportedly part of the producing team. PlayStation Productions set up shop earlier this year and is led by Azad Kizilbash, an 11-year veteran of Sony's PlayStation marketing group, and overseen by Sean Layden, chairman of SIE Worldwide Studios. Sony's Columbia Pictures announced its intention to make an Uncharted movie in the summer of 2009. Back then, director David O. Russell was attached to make the movie with Mark Wahlberg, Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci as a justice-dealing family of antiquities experts. God, I hated that idea. Quote, "This idea really turns me on, and there's a family that's a force to be reckoned with within the world of international art antiquities. A family that deals with the heads of state and heads of museums and mets out justice," Russell told LA Times in 2010. Since then, Russell has been succeeded by directors Neil Berger, Seth Gordon, Sean Levy, and Dan Trachtenberg, and the film has burned through a variety of screenwriters and screenplays. Despite those production bumps, Sony announced a release date for Uncharted earlier this year. The film was supposed to hit theaters on December 18th, 2020. This project is cursed. Quit trying to make it. Just stop. We have an Uncharted movie. It's called The Games. Just play the games and watch that Nathan Fillion short film. We don't need it. Doesn't need to happen. It's having too many problems. This project is cursed. Move on. Speaking of moving on, let's talk about the next news story. Moving on. This is from the PlayStation blog. Here are your PS Plus games for September. They are Batman Arkham Knight and Darksiders 3. Both these games will be available between September 3rd and September 30th. Not much else to say. If you've not played Batman Arkham Knight, now it's free. It kind of makes me want to jump back into it. I played Knight when it came out. Thought it was gorgeous. Hated the Batmobile. Hated the tank stuff. So, I don't know. Maybe might give it another go. It's been a while. Might jump into it. I don't know. I've been itching to play the Arkham games again, but I feel like I should just start them all over. And now I think through PlayStation Plus, I accidentally have all the Darksiders games. Now that I think about it. I feel like I have them now. Never intended to have them. But hey, it's a good set of games this month for just being two. It's one of the stronger ones. That's been a common gripe since they cut back from 4 to 7 games to just 2, right? There's just, the lineups have been weak. And this one's good. Arkham Knight, Darksiders 3. Darksiders 3 is still a pretty new game. I don't even think it's even close to being a year old. When did that come out? Darksiders 3. Let's find out. Darksiders 3, November 27th, 2018. So that game's not even a year old, and you can already get it for free. So that's a good little deal. Gonna move on here to Colin Campbell over at Polygon. Telltale Games is being revived. I'm gonna add an addendum to this that says sort of, but not really. Telltale Games, which shut down last year, is being revived after its assets were purchased by a company called LCG Entertainment. The new company will sell some of Telltale's back catalog and will work on new games based on a few Telltale-associated properties, as well as new licenses. The new Telltale is headed up by Jamie Ottilie and Brian Waddle. Ottilie said that some workers of the original Telltale games will be offered freelance roles with full-time positions possible in the future. Ottilie has spent much of his career in mobile games, most recently as founder and CEO of Galaxy Pest Control, which is best known for licensed games based on Duck Dynasty and Power Rangers. Waddle's previous experience includes running sales and marketing for the Havoc Games engine. Neither worked at Telltale Games prior to its shuttering in 2018. In an interview with Polygon, Ottilie confirmed that the new business has back catalog rights to licensed properties The Wolf Among Us and Batman, as well as full rights to original Telltale games such as Puzzle Agent. Quote, "There are some other expired licenses that we're looking at," he said. Ottilie said it's possible the new Telltale will pick up some stories where they left off. Quote, "We're still evaluating, but we definitely want to continue some of the stories," he said. "But it looks like The Walking Dead won't be coming back. That license is now owned by Skybound, which has its own plans for game releases." The status of previous Telltale licenses such as Borderlands, Game of Thrones, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Minecraft has not been announced. When asked about Telltale's previous plans to release a game based on Stranger Things, he said that the rights had reverted back to Netflix. Ottilie said that he bought the rights to Telltale because he believes in the future of adventure games. Quote, "This is a viable business that went away due to market conditions and some scale choices Telltale's previous management made," he said, continuing, "I like games to tell stories, and I think our industry should have a company that specializes in narrative-driven games," end quote. Telltale's rights were purchased from a company that had been assigned by creditors of the old company. According to Ottilie, negotiations began 6 months ago. Quote, "It was incredibly complex," he said, end quote. The purchase price has not been announced. Publisher Athlon Games is a partner in the deal and will handle storefront operations and distribution. Financial backers include various games industry figures including Chris Kingsley from Rebellion, Lyle Hall of Heavy Iron Studios, and Tobias Sjorgen, formerly of Starbreeze. The revived Telltale games will be based in Malibu, California, about 400 miles from the original studio's headquarters in San Rafael. Quote, "We're going to stay small over the next 6 months, and we will work for more of a distributed development pipeline than Telltale was known for," Ottilie said. "We'll focus on tools, technology, and design in-house. Some things like animation and motion capture will be done with the right partnerships externally," end quote. Ottilie explained that the company is looking at evolving Telltale's episodic model. Quote, "We will probably keep the concept of episodes, but with different pacing. This is a different world from a media consumption standpoint. We need to look at how people like to entertain themselves. I like the idea of binge watching," end quote. On Telltale's legacy and its managerial errors, he said, quote, "They brought me some of my favorite stories to play, and they did an amazing job building a company. It's unfortunate the way it ended. Certainly we're working very hard not to make similar mistakes," end quote. I threw this in here for a number of reasons. One, y'all know how much I love Telltale, right? Like, if you've listened to this show for a while, you may remember the Telltale Games closing episode where I cried. But I put this in here. Because one, sure, narrative-driven games, Telltale being back, that's fine. I want to emphasize, because there was a certain level of excitement in the air when this was announced. Everyone's like, Telltale's back! And Telltale is back in name only. They're only offering freelance positions to some former employees that may get full-time later. I want to say this, and I'm going to move on from the story. Brands don't make games. Telltale Games did not make The Walking Dead Season 1 what it was. Telltale Games did not make Batman and Season 1 and The Enemy Within what it was. It's the people that made that game what it was. It's the writers. It's the developers. It's that team. It's those artists. It's all of that made those games what they were. Like, McDonald's doesn't make the Big Mac. It's the people that make the Big Mac. And to sit there and be excited that Telltale is back. Sure, Telltale Games is back. Hooray, I say. But also, nay. Because it's not the same people. So you can't guarantee it's going to have that same heart. Will the tool be better? Will the engine be better? I hope so. But, like, just because Telltale is back as a name does not make this is not a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet situation. This is or pulling more roses. The Simpsons joke of, you wouldn't think it's going to be that great if they're called stink blossoms, right? Like, it's brands don't make games. It's the people. And if those people aren't there, you can't guarantee that just because Telltale plastered, and if someone bought Telltale and plastered Telltale's name on something, does not mean you're getting the same quality. You're not getting the same story. You're not getting the same narrative, that same kind of feel and that drive. So that's where I'm going to leave that. Last bit of news before we get into some announcements, new games and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into context about this one because I don't know all the details, and this kind of falls into the same line when I talk to family members about different political issues. I'm going to talk about this story straddling a fine line of speaking comfortably and talking out of my ass. So I'm going to try really, really hard to not cross that line into talking out of my ass. Night in the Woods co-creator Alec Holowka has died. This is from ONS Good at Polygon. Alec Holowka, the composer, developer, and co-creator of Night in the Woods and co-founder of game studio Infinite Ammo, died this weekend. Holowka's death was reported on Twitter Saturday afternoon by his sister. Quote, Alec Holowka, my brother and best friend, passed away this morning, she wrote. Alec was a victim of abuse, and he also spent a lifetime battling mood and personality disorders. I will not pretend that he was not also responsible for causing harm, but deep down, he was a person who wanted only to offer people care and kindness. It took him a while to figure out how. In the last few days, he was supported by many Manitoba crisis services, and I want to thank everyone there for their support. I want to thank game developer and producer Adam Saltzman for staying up late, talking with us, and reminding Alec that there was a future, end quote. Efforts to confirm Holowka's death with Winnipeg, Manitoba authorities were unsuccessful. A message sent to Saltzman was not returned. On Monday, Holowka was accused of physical and emotional abuse by game designer and writer Zoe Quinn. In the following days, a colleague of Holowka claimed he had jeopardized her role on a game after she had rejected quote-unquote romantic advances. And the Night in the Woods team announced it had cut ties with the developer based off, quote, allegations that are extremely plausible, and just about all of it we've corroborated from other sources, end quote. Holowka played a significant role in the creation of Night in the Woods, a narrative adventure game which covers themes of mental illness, depression, and social immobility. He also contributed to a number of indie games in the past decade, including Aquaria and Towerfall. Yesterday afternoon, a post to Night in the Woods subreddit acknowledged Holowka's death and the events that preceding week. The post notes Infinite Ammo developer Scott Benson's message to Kickstarter backers of the game regarding the allegations against Holowka and the studio's response. In a point-by-point discussion, Benson said the reason for cutting ties with Holowka, quote, was a combination of a lot of things from several parties and our experiences going back years. It sucked, end quote. Benson added that the studio would not remove him from the game's credits. The allegations against Holowka were part of many personal experiences shared this past week following an accusation against game composer Jeremy Soule. On Monday, two women, one a vocalist and another a game developer, accused Soule, who composed the music for Elder Scrolls series, of sexual misconduct. Excuse me. Holowka's sister, also a developer with Infinite Ammo, on Saturday implored readers to leave Quinn, who has deleted their Twitter account, alone. Quote, Alex specifically said he wished the best for Zoe and everyone else, so don't use our grief as an excuse to harass people, she said. In her original post, she wrote, quote, I currently do not see a place for myself in games or on Twitter. I will not be looking at the responses to this post. Hours later, she took her account private. Infinite Ammo this morning pinned a tweet from Holowka on August 31st, 2018 to its front page. Now, I'm not going to get into the accusations. I'm not going to get into what Miss Quinn talked about or the accusations against Jeremy Soule. These continue to come out against the game industry. These continue to, victims continue to speak out against their abusers. I will say I am in the camp that you believe the victims. And it even seems like in the case of Night in the Woods Studio, they did as well. I will go one step further in saying that regardless of who you are, regardless of what you've done in your past life and the mistakes you've made, they are a part of you, it does not mean they have to define you. It does not mean that they have to solely consist of who you are in your entire being. You can make efforts to get better. This coming from someone who, while I never did anything of this ilk, I was an asshole. I was a real big piece of shit for a long time. And I'm not going to make that about me any more than just saying that. But you can make those changes. Your past doesn't define you. Now, hanging on to your past is kind of what for a lot of people I think stems depression. But if you're dealing with mental health issues, if you're upset, if you've got anxiety, if you've got, bipolar, if you're dealing with abuse and things like that, like there are a world of people, not only whose job it is to help you, but other people who are close to you that will also want to help, that will hear you out. And whether they're trained for it, whether they're volunteers, whether they're paid, whether you're your mom, your friend, your neighbor, whatever, you can't be afraid to vocalize your emotions. You can't be afraid to speak about your feelings. And I know a lot of us were raised at a time where you keep that shit bottled up. You keep that insular. You keep that in your own bubble. You don't talk about it. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to the people around you. That's not fair to your family, to your loved ones, to your friends. Regardless of who you are and what you've done in your past, don't let that be a reason to think you don't have a future. Maybe you're disgraced from an industry. You're blacklisted from that, right? There's nothing in life that is bad enough that is necessary to take your own. And that's where I'll leave it. Suicide is not a solution to anything for anyone. And I think, it's hard. It's a hard thing to deal with. It's a hard thing to cope with and wrap your head around, like where someone had to have been to think that was the best decision. Yeah. So regardless of the person you've been in your past, the mistakes you've made and things like that, people fuck up, and some fuck up far, 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 far greater to do untenable and unforgivable acts. But if you're feeling like that's your way out, like, you talk to somebody, please. Like, that's not the way you end your story. Yikes. So last bit of stuff. We got some new games and dates. One in which I'm incredibly excited about. We got I closed out of the tab too soon. First one is a remaster of Disney's classics Lion King and Aladdin are coming this fall. Now this links back into the Disney Afternoon Collection stuff, right? But it's gonna be $29.99. Do not see a date for it yet. It'll be PC, PS4, Switch, and Xbox One. Now, you're asking yourself, Alex, you love them Virgin Interactive Software games, the Disney games for the Genesis. But they were also Capcom ports, too, for the SNES. Which ones are these? Let me tell you. Coming this fall to console and PC, Disney classic games Aladdin and The Lion King combines the two of the best movie tie-in games ever in one HD upscaled bundle. The package includes Sega Genesis and Game Boy releases of both games, as well as the Super Nintendo version of The Lion King, along with special features to make the game easier to play for today's delicate young flowers. Disney games Aladdin and The Lion King, put together by Nighthawk Interactive and Digital Eclipse, is basically an extension of the excellent Disney Afternoon Collection. The different versions of each game can be tweaked with a variety of visual enhancements and customizable controls. Cheat codes and a rewind feature help players make it through the tough spots. An interactive museum filled with concept art and music rounds out the $29.99 package. The Sega version of The Lion, that's all editorializations. We're not doing that here. So, very excited about that. Those are two of my favorite Genesis games ever, and to be able to play them upscaled and remastered with a little bit easier, can't wait. So excited for those. Those got me. Oh my god, I was so excited when I woke up and found out about that. A teaser trailer is coming September 9th from Capcom that will probably, more than likely, definitely show a new Resident Evil game ahead of Tokyo Game Show. Right now it's being called Project Resistance, with RE being red, so probably Resident Evil. More to come on that September 9th. Shovel Knight Dig was announced, this coming straight from Yacht Club Games. When Drill Knight and his dastardly digging crew blew apart Shovel Knight's peaceful campsite and steal his loot, he grabs his trusty shovel blade and starts tunneling after them. Meet new friends and foes, visit strange lands, and outfit yourself in your quest to keep your entire land from collapsing underfoot. Jump, slash, and dig your way down an ever-changing chasm of mystery in Shovel Knight Dig, an all-new Shovel Knight adventure. Let's see. And then lastly, there's a teaser that reveals the next game, the Dark Pictures Anthology, will be called Little Hope and will be coming in 2020. But that's all the stuff coming in the future. If you want to know what's coming out for the week of September 3rd, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We need to do the drop. Remember, the drop are your North American PSN store releases, subject to change without notice. Apocalypsis, the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil, comes to PS4 Digital September 6th. In Apocalypsis, you play as Harry, from whom the loss of his beloved was the end of his world. Now he has to venture out into the strange, unwelcoming, and haunted lands to get her back. Or on his journey, he will meet fantastical creatures straight from the visions of the 15th and 16th artists such as Hans Holbein and Albrecht Dürer. As Divine Menace comes to PS4 and PS Vita Digital cross-buy. Travel the galaxy to bring the truth full circle in an epic fantasy RPG. Experience immersive turn-based battles with cooperative attacks and new limit break skills. With all quests, collecting, and crafting the battle arena and even post-game content, As Divine Menace comes packed with enough elements to satisfy JRPG hungry gamers. Blindfold, a Verite VR experience comes to PSVR Digital. Blindfold places you in the perspective of a photojournalist enduring a harsh interrogation in Iran's famous Ivan prison. Drawing from real-life accounts and historical fact, Blindfold presents a powerful Verite experience that explores the unique storytelling possibilities of VR. Catherine Full Body comes to PS4 Digital and Retail. The captivating tale returns in Catherine Full Body, bigger and better than before. Improved visuals and gameplay, brand new music, enhanced multiplayer options, and much more await in this enticing new package. Will our indecisive protagonist survive the trials and tribulations of love, or fall to temptations? 50 Words by Paugi comes to PS4 and PS Vita Digital cross-buy. A brand new word search puzzle from Paugi. This time there's no grid, no list of words to find, and no wrong letters. Discover the 50 intertwined words and paint them with vibrant highlights to create a unique piece of blended color art as you relax into each puzzle. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered comes to PS4 Digital. The mega hit RPG returns. This PS4 version features new graphical enhancements and a whole host of options to customize your gameplay experience. In a world engulfed in war, Squall, a member of an elite mercenary force, leads his group in a fight against the sorceress Adia to prevent her from fulfilling her nefarious goal. Flowers Are Dead comes to PS4 Digital September 5th. Flowers Are Dead is a first-person story-based game. Play as Evelyn, face your tribulations, delve deep into your mind, trace down the one that got away, and live through your memories. Hymno comes to PS4 and PS Vita Digital cross-buy. Hymno is a non-violent, no-death platformer. Use wall jumps, slides, and dashes to reach new heights in randomly generated maps. Using easy-to-learn controls, parkour through each map to overcome platforming challenges to reach new districts. Level up as new heights are reached, and rescue wisps to light up the darkness around you. Monster Hunter World Iceborne comes to PS4 Digital and Retail. Face off against ferocious beasts as you fight for survival in a lush, living ecosystem. Let your hunting instinct take you further than ever. Iceborne is a massive expansion that picks up after the ending of Monster Hunter World and opens up the new Master Rank. NBA 2K20 comes to PS4 digital and retail September 6th. 2K continues to redefine what's possible in sports gaming with NBA 2K20, featuring best-in-class graphics and gameplay, groundbreaking game modes, and more. Plus, with its immersive open-world neighborhood, NBA 2K20 is a platform for gamers and ballers to come together and create what's next in basketball culture. The Perplexing Orb comes to PS4 digital and is definitely the worst cover art of the week. Are you kidding me? Look at that thing. That's a mess. That's a disaster. If you're listening to the audio version, hop over to the video version at around 1 hour and 20 minutes and check out the Perplexing Orb here. Experience a puzzle platforming challenge like no other. Roll through over 60 single-player stages, collecting artifacts, navigating obstacles, and knocking over the finish post to achieve victory. Post-War Dreams comes to PS4 digital. Post-War Dreams is a 2.5D story-rich side-scrolling action game set in the wasteland of USA plagued with constant war. Following the collapse of the economy, government, and society, you must brave heavily armed militia, lawless gangs, and other challenges to escape this post-apocalyptic wasteland alive. Project Nimbus Code Mirai comes to PS4 digital. Project Nimbus Code Mirai is a mech-based flying game inspired by the Gundam, Macross, and Ace Combat series. PN:CM features vibrant graphics, blistering action gameplay, and an epic storyline. Fly a variety of battle frames while fighting enemies over floating cities, vast oceans, and the reaches of space. River City Girls comes to PS4 digital September 5th. There's trouble once again in River City with a capital T and that rhymes with P and that stands for pool. That stands for pool. And this time only the girls can save the day. Using a variety of attacks, weapons, and items, these hot-blooded heroines are ready to teach the city's lowlifes a lesson by creating a marching band. This is too many Music Man references on it. That's too many, Alex. Calm it down. Either solo or in two-player co-op. It's an old-school rumble for a new generation. Captain Willie's Whizbag. Root Letter, Last Answer comes to PS4 digital. The return of the best-selling interactive mystery visual novel. Follow in the footsteps of Aya Fumino, a school pen friend allegedly involved in a tragic murder 15 years ago. Explore the prefecture of Shinman. Uncover clues and use the letters you wrote to each other to track down her childhood friends for questioning. Shalnor Legends, Sacred Lands comes to PS4 digital September 6th. A young girl has traveled to the Sacred Lands. Within this realm, she will face many challenges, face dangerous monsters, and solve mysterious puzzles. Many have come to this land before, all in hopes of finishing the sacred trial, but none has succeeded. Will she fail like the others, or will she overcome the odds and return home? Shell Shock Live comes to PS4 digital. Demolish your friends with hundreds of upgradable weapons shot from your customizable tanks in this action-packed online multiplayer tanks game. Earn XP to level up and unlock new tanks, weapons, and gear. Fight against or alongside your friends for strategic, team, or free-for-all matches. Spice and Wolf VR comes to PSVR and PS4 digital September 5th. Craft Lawrence, a traveling merchant, meets Holo, a beautiful woman who can transform into a wolf. To avoid a sudden downpour, Holo and Lawrence take shelter in an old abandoned watermill in the woods. Huddling around a small fire and enjoying a slightly strange but relaxing time together, you can share that time together with them. Sudden Strike 4 Complete Collection comes to PS4 digital and retail September 6th. The Sudden Strike 4 Complete Collection offers fans the ultimate World War II strategy experience, containing the main game plus all DLCs, Battle of Kursk, Road to Dunkirk, Finland Winter Storm, Africa Desert War, and the Pacific War. Experience realistic real-time strategy gameplay with tactical depth across 11 campaigns over 45 missions. Throne Quest Deluxe comes to PS4 digital September 6th. Throne Quest Deluxe is a seamless open-world action RPG. Delve into adventurous world of dungeons and crypts, vicious monsters, and huge amounts of loot. Change between 12 classes and explore your way through dangers on an epic quest to reach the central castle, to claim the throne held by a demon boss. Torchlight 2 comes to PS4 digital. Torchlight 2 is fast, fun, and filled with action and loot. The award-winning action RPG is back to bring you into its quirky world of bloodthirsty monsters, bountiful treasures, and sinister secrets. Once again, the fate of the world is in your hands. Play Torchlight 2 on PS4 and receive an exclusive pet Fieri. Truck Racing Championship comes to PS4 Digital September 5th. The only official simulation that features all the unique characteristics of the European Truck Racing Championship, one of the most spectacular and challenging motor racing competitions, and offers all racing fans a completely new driving experience. Race a giant 5-ton, 1,000 horsepower truck against 12 competitors while respecting the race rules. And those are your new releases for this week. That was a lot. It was far more than I was anticipating. Now we bring ourselves to Trophy Talk. Remember, Trophy Talk is the part of the show. Trophy Time, Trophy Talk. Forgot my own segments. Comes as part of the show where I take you from 0 to 100 on a game as fast as possible because, let's face it, shit's meaningless, right? We're all gonna croak. We're all gonna kick the bucket. Can't take this shit with us. Can't even get the VR trophy room like I keep asking for. Where's the VR trophy room? Just give it to us. It should be easy. Palgi game, by default, is your easy trophy game of the week. Really, that's it. That really looks like it. I'm scrolling. I'm a scroll man. This shit ain't even, this is nothing here. So if you're into cheap platinums, get that Palgi. Gotta get that Palgi. Oh shit. All right. Well, that's the end of Trophy Talk. That's not really the way I wanted to bring that back, but what can you do? Can't predict the weather, right? So this, ladies and gentlemen, has been episode 71 of the PlayStation Forecast. Remember, it comes to you live every Monday at twitch.tv/PressXToAlex, and then Tuesdays at midnight on youtube.com/PressXToAlex and the podcast service of your choice except SoundCloud. If you want to help support the show, subscribing on Twitch, following on Twitch, subscribing on YouTube, subscribing on the podcast service of choice, writing a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. All great free ways to help support this little labor of love. If you want to help support it at a more financial level, you can at patreon.com/PressXToAlex, where for $12 a year, which is just $1 a month, you can help me keep the mics and lights working and that such as stuff. If you want to keep tabs on me and what I'm doing outside the show, twitter.com/PressXToAlex is the best place to find me. Glad to be back. This is good. Feels good. Feels good, man.jpg. I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to cut over to the other setup to do RecFest. I'm going to get everything set up there. So if you're watching live, feel free to hang around. I'm going to do the thing. You do the thing. Until next time, I love you. Do the thing.